people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. On the heels of her knockout loss this past weekend to Sandy Ryan, current reigning WBO welterweight champion, Terri Harper may be moving down in weight to lightweight, and she may end up facing her Matchroom stablemate, Jaron Dixon. According to Matchroom impresario Eddie Hearn, who has revealed that he would like to make a Dixon versus Harper all-British world title fight at lightweight should Dixon beat Karen Elizabeth Carabajal in April, early next month, when he spoke to the voluptuous October Red. An idea that I entertained immediately after the fight in my post-fight recap video, that Terri Harper, she'd be moving down in weight, and if she does, if she's going back to lightweight, there are world title opportunities there.
Where Katie Taylor used to reign as that division's undisputed champion.
She has since vacated both the WBO and IBF titles, but she's still in possession of the WBA and WBC, though I think not for long. Sooner or later, she's going to vacate those titles because she's undisputed at 140.
She doesn't need them.
Brazil's own Beatriz Ferreira will be fighting for the newly vacated IBF. Jaron Dixon will be fighting for the newly vacated WBO.
And I think very soon Terri Harper could be fighting for the newly vacated WBA.
WBA? Why not the WBC?
It's because the two fighters in a pole position to fight for a newly vacated WBC title are Caroline Dubois and Mayra Moneo. A fight that's en route, a fight that is in the works.
That, in effect, blocks the WBC route for Terri Harper. I don't think she's going that route. I think she's going to go the WBA route, because via the WBA, while Caroline Dubois is ranked at number 1 with them too, if she fights for the WBC, and I think she's going to, that will eliminate her from the equation.
At which point, Terri Harper would have to contend with Germany's own Dilar Kasikio.
A fight that would not require her to deal with a boxer fighter, a boxer on Sky Sports, a more winnable fight than a Caroline Dubois fight, especially now that Terri's coming off a loss.
You think she's going to come off a knockout loss to fight for a title?
That's what Sebastian Fundora's doing this weekend for not just one title, but 2. That's what he's doing. So when I look at that, and I look at this, I think it's possible that Terri Harper in her next fight,
which would serve as a rebound fight,
maybe she fights for the newly vacated WBA title at 135 pounds, thereby setting up a potential Jaron Dixon unification match. Now, there are a lot of moving parts to this, but there have to be. You can't just stick Terri Harper in there with Jaron after the Karen Carabajal fight, because Terri's coming right off a loss. The fight's not going to have as much sizzle.
Still a good fight to me. Still an even fight.
But it would be better to get Terri back in the winner's bracket and get her a title if you can. And if you put her in there against Dilar Kasikio or Becky Boss or Estelle Mosley, if Estelle wins her next fight.
She might not.
Not only does that allow you to get Terri Harper back in the winner's bracket to remind people of what she can do, the fighter she can be, but it would see her become a champion, a 3-division champion, and add that much more sizzle, that much more spice to a Jaron Dixon fight. Jaron Dixon,
she's got her own problems.
I don't think that Karen Carabajal fight is going to be an easy fight for Jaron. She can win it. She's got the talent to win it, but I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park.
She becomes WBO champion. Terri potentially becomes WBA champion. You can set up a unification match between them towards the end of the year.
Jaron Dixon's fight is already made, and it's already en route. It's right around the corner next month. You can have Terri get back out there over the summer months. Let her recover, let her recuperate, regroup, get back in the winner's bracket in either June or July
or August
over the summer months. Then, in late fall or early winter, you can do the fight between them.
It's a fascinating fight if they can make it.
Though still contingent upon a few things. As stated, there are a lot of moving parts. Rhiannon has to take care of business with Karen. You would ideally want to get Terry back in the winner's bracket, and then Terry, she's got to win that fight.
Yeah.
This scenario would give Matchroom control of 3 of the 4 major titles at this weight, with the WBC potentially ending up on the Boxer and Sky Sports side of things.
We'll see what shakes out in the coming weeks and months.
Men's welterweight news, a disappointing bit of intel from veteran boxing scribe Dake Jonovan, who says, sad news for the purse bid heads. As expected, another delay in the IBF order Jaron Ennis versus Cody Crowley 147-pound title fight will likely get canceled outright. Fight never stood a real chance of happening, though no reasons given for why it continues to drag out this long. And Usually in these situations, it all boils down to money. It all boils down to, what does Cody Crowley stand to make taking on Jaron Boots Ennis? And I happen to think, if someone else were handling this, someone else other than TGB Promotions,
Which is just another way of saying PBC.
on paper, Cody Crowley is the PBC fighter on paper, but most people feel that the PBC are in the process of adding Boots to their stable. That's what all of this is, in spite of his promotional issues and his court case and just all of that stuff that we've talked about already. That Boots, if he's not already a PBC fighter, he's trying to be.
Right?
Say that he weren't. Say that he would have went to Matchroom. I firmly believe that this fight, it would have been done by now, because it's not a big fight. It's not the kind of fight that you're supposed to spend this much time on. And if it feels like Boots is often out of action, that he should be fighting more because he doesn't have the profile now to have such a sparse schedule of activity, it's because he's aligned himself with the PBC.
That's it.
Eddie Hearn has been quite vocal the last calendar year that he would love to add Boots to his stable. He would love to pick him up, but Boots and his father, Bozy, and his team, they seem to want to align themselves with the PBC.
For better or worse.
Looks worse to me, because there are a good number of fighters we've talked about that have already jumped ship. They've left the PBC. Michelle Rivera went to Salida Promotions, Subriel Matias went to Matchroom, Kenny Sims amicably parted ways with the PBC, though still, he parted ways with them.
He left.
So did Deontay Wilder. Former WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder, who used to be one of their flagship fighters. His next fight is supposed to be in Saudi. No association to Al Heyman, no association to the PBC. In so many words, he left too, and he's not the only one. They're not the only ones. So where fighters are leaving the PBC, it seems like Boots is staying.
And for what?
What's over there that's keeping him there? Certainly not fight dates. They don't have that many fight dates. Only 12 to 14, and they have yet to do their first show. They're going to do their first show this weekend. 3 months into the year, then there's said to be a complete blackout in April, and the PBC doesn't come back until May. Canelo Alvarez's next fight. Is Boots going to be on that undercard?
Was he supposed to be?
That's 5 months into the year. Almost 6, and 6 is half the year.
Pretty much.
I know there is some excitement around Boots, a bit of a cult following that he's amassed. I think a lot of those people are just old Errol Spence fans who want Boots to be the anti-Crawford, the answer for Crawford.
Right.
They were never that adamant before, back when Errol Spence was IBF champion and Jaron Boots Ennis was climbing up those IBF ranks, fighting in those IBF eliminators. They were never that adamant about Boots getting a big fight, big title fight, when Errol was champion, but as soon as he got beat and the belts went to Terrence, then they started caring.
Now you want to speak up?
We've already talked about how the fight was offered to him by Black Prime close to 1 million times now, what could be 1 million more, so long as those out there try to revise history and tell some other version of the story, their version of the story. The bottom line is, you snooze, you lose. You stayed loyal to a network at the expense of that opportunity, and that network ended up leaving the sport. Now,
You're struggling to make a Cody Crowley fight happen.
the hyperbole in association with this sparsely active fighter we hear about ad nauseum. He's nowhere near active enough for people to be this excited. It's just more of the same from the same people.
Everything you touch turns into shit.
Last year, what Bozy was talking about was a Mario Barrios fight, a potential Mario Barrios fight. Then talks quickly turned into talks for a Cody Crowley fight. And as it stands, neither of those fights seem to be materializing. So I'll ask again, what exactly is keeping Boots on that side of the street? What is it that the PBC has, or what is it that they think they have?
Those fights aren't big fights anyway, you know.
And they can't even make them in a timely fashion at a time when they don't even have that many fight dates to begin with. So what's keeping him there? What's the appeal? of being there?
I don't know.
I think Boots has got something, some potential, though I wouldn't dub this a Greek tragedy.
More like a self-inflicted wound.
That he may not live up to his potential? Yeah, that happens in the sport all the time.
Who is he? Well, not even 12 months ago you fought John Ryder. No disrespect to John Ryder, who's a capable guy. Who is John Ryder as far as star power is concerned? Because now you're putting it, not as far as capabilities, because John Ryder, I admit, is a capable fighter. But when we're talking about star power, you're trying to compare star power. What are you talking about, bro? Not even 12 months ago you fought John Ryder. What are we saying? What do you mean, who is he? By that standard, who is most of the guys you're fighting then? You know, I don't know, bro. And of course, the triple C's are going to defend this. You know, they're going to get mad at me for calling it out and calling it, putting it out there like I see it. If the Saudis put up this kind of money, I think the fight would happen. Will the Saudis care to put up this kind of money? I don't know. It might be overpricing it even to that degree. But boxing is supposed to do the right thing. Boxing is supposed to do the right thing. This is the best fighter in the 168-pound division. Probably Canelo's probably number 3 right now. I don't even think he beats Morello at this point. But and I'm not sure he beats Munguia. Munguia fight is right there.
So the whining, peeing, and shitting continues.
Yes.
The whining, peeing, and shitting in reference to it's supposed to be a Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez fight, this time in the form of former champion Paulie Maligniggi on ProBox TV.
He's been letting Canelo Alvarez have it.
But why? Why is he letting him have it? When Canelo Alvarez struck that 3-fight deal with the PBC last year, did you guys think that David was going to be the first fight of the deal?
Are you stupid?
If that's the biggest fight that Al Heyman can make for Canelo, bigger than a Charlo fight, bigger certainly, and maybe even bigger than a Munguia fight, if you believe it's bigger.
Are you stupid?
Then why would that be the first fight of the deal? One would think that if that's the biggest fight that Al Heyman can make with Canelo, that would be the last fight, not the first fight. Yet the whole time, you guys have been whining.
Ever since that deal was struck.
Because you're stupid and childish, emotional and petulant.
That all means the same thing.
Throwing your toys out of the pram. That the very first fight of the deal wasn't a Benavidez fight, when why the fuck would it be?
In his schedule, based on what reports indicated, I always figured that the Benavidez fight would happen in September, and needless to say, it's not September. What, you thought the Benavidez fight would be the second fight of the deal, that you're now complaining?
Why would that be the second fight of the deal if that's the biggest fight that Al Heyman can hope to make? Once again, I would think that that would be the last fight. Now, we know that the deal has since been restructured. We know that it's not a 3-fight deal anymore. It's said to be a 1-fight deal. Though, even if it is, that doesn't stop Canelo from doing more business with the PBC. That doesn't stop him from doing more fights with them, namely the David Benavidez fight. But you guys keep telling me it won't happen. You keep telling me Canelo's ducking, he don't want no parts of this guy, and the fight will never go down. To that I ask,
Then isn't that more reason for David to take up Turkey al-Sheikh on his offer?
posed that question yesterday in my previous video to David Benavidez's supporters, his fans.
If you think that fight won't happen, then let him go to 175. Problem
go to 175.
Stop fucking crying about it then.
And there's a golden opportunity right there for David Benavidez that he should capitalize on if it's the way that his fans say it is, and Canelo's afraid and won't fight him. And yet all they can keep talking about is Canelo Alvarez. I don't understand.
You guys are saying he's not gonna fight him, right?
Then what are we still on this for?
Then what the fuck are you crying about?
Because you still continue to sit on him.
Emotional outbursts, crying out for David's critics to be nicer to him. Be nicer.
Please!
Doesn't even address the subject at hand because it's motivated by emotion, not logic. It's motivated by fear.
Fear of what?
What I told you yesterday. Do you think that David's supporters are sitting here crying the whole time about Canelo because they want him to go to light heavyweight? Because they want him to face the winner of Better B versus B-Vol? No. They want to keep the focus on Canelo because they don't like his chances in that fight, the fight at light heavyweight. They fear he might lose, and if he does,
There goes the neighborhood.
should rejoice that such an opportunity was made available to David so easily by one with the means and the money, the ability to make such a fight happen between David and the winner of that fight. Yet all David's fans can talk about is Canelo.
What the fuck's that gonna do?
It's not that I believe it. It's that they believe it. They're the ones that believe the fight will never materialize. So if it's not,
You crying about?
Turkey Al Sheikh just extended an olive branch to David to make a big fight, another big fight. No, it's not the Canelo fight, but it's still for undisputed. David himself said it's not about money, it's about legacy. Well, there's your legacy. It's right there.
Go for it.
I don't think he will. This whole time, I don't think he actually wants the winner of that fight. He's not committed to fighting the winner of that fight. Going up to 175 is little more than just a pit stop, a break from killing himself to make 168.
That he doesn't want to have to keep making that unless it's for Canelo.
But he's got to fight. He can't just sit on the shelf collecting dust and ring rust, so he's gonna fight at 175, and while he's up there, he can fight for a WBC trinket title that he figures he can use later on.
To get the winner of Better Be versus Bivol?
No, to pick up a vacant title if one becomes vacant, if one becomes available. The same as Gervonta Davis at 135. When he got the WBA regular title, it wasn't so he could use it to get Vasily Lomachenko or Teofimo or George or Devin in the ring. He was just hanging on to it long enough that should the full title become vacant, he will be elevated to full champion. David's doing the same thing. He don't want the winner of that fight.
And his fans don't want that fight for him. They're scared.
They should be. David's MO is outsizing smaller, older opponents. Smaller, older opponents like David Lemieux, like Demetrius Andrade. They hope like Canelo Alvarez.
They don't want him in there with Artur or Dimitri.
So when I posed that question in my previous video yesterday, all I got was a couple of guys who didn't want to address it, who didn't want to answer it. All they want to focus on is Canelo.
Undisputed is right there for you.
But all you want to talk to me about is Canelo.
Maybe I understand the sport a little bit better than you do, but it sounds to me like what you've been expecting is for the very first fight of Canelo's 3-fight deal with the PBC to have been the Benavidez fight. That's what it sounds like. If you're bitching and moaning about everything he's done up until this point, here at this point he's only had one fight under that deal, which was the Charlo fight. So are you telling me you expected the first fight to be David?
They seem to want that Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez fight the same way that a baby wants his baba. And they're going to pee, shit, and cry about it until they get it, even though it doesn't make sense.
What you're telling me is you do not believe the fight is going to happen, correct?
I don't believe that fight's gonna happen.
Ever, right?
And I don't believe Canelo wants it. That's number one.
Maybe all right.
Number
All right.
two,
I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at what do you believe? So basically, you believe the fight is never going to happen.
it's never
Then,
gonna happen.
It's never going to happen, so you're going to argue about it every single day. Look for people to argue with about it every single day when you're the one that believes it's never going to happen.
This is your average David Benavidez fan.
This is how they respond to direct questions that are finite and objective.
Conclusive.
It's not just that guy. It's not just him. This is how all of them behave. You guys are the ones that believe the fight won't happen. Well, what the fuck do you want me to do about it?
You crying about?
What, you mad that I do? That I think the door is still open for that fight to happen in September? Because I always thought it would happen in September. You're the bozos that seem to think that was supposed to be the first fight of the deal or the second fight of the deal, the next fight.
I always thought it would happen in September, if it is gonna happen.
David himself seems to think the fight might happen in September. In his own words, he said, don't be surprised if the fight happens in September.
They don't want to wait till September, I guess.
What do you mean wait till September? They don't even think it's gonna happen. Which begs the question, what are you crying to me for? You think I'm gonna change your diaper?
Wipe your nose, wipe your ass.
Get you some split peas and applesauce so you can quit your fucking crying?
Since you don't think it's gonna happen, that's all the more reason for David to move on.
You should too.